life 1 mile at a time. If you are a fan of Run Disney Race recaps, then you already recognize our very special guest today. We have Gerald from the RezRuns channel. He is here to talk about his experience doing the Star Wars Dark Side Challenge. We also have, as usual, we have Megan.
Hello.
And we have Rob.
Hey.
And this is going to be the first in a series of posts because our conversation, I'm sure, is going to be long and detailed. I cannot wait to get started. So let's go ahead and get into the conversation.
So Gerald, did you run the races last year?
I did the inaugural year, and it was dramatically different. That was my first year of Disney races, so I really had no idea what I was getting into. I mean, the half marathon for me in January of 2016 was kind of a total blur. It was my first ever half marathon, first race. I did the 10K for the Enchanted, which, frankly, the 10Ks and 5Ks are so big. You don't really know what you're getting into. And then that was the first challenge I did, was the inaugural year of the Dark Side, Star Wars Dark Side Half Marathon Weekend. And they really did a lot of changes. I think they heard what people...
I'm curious to hear all about that, because I ran it last year as well, good and bad. But I heard... So
you remember, there were a lot of complaints. There were some real complaints about the courses, about how it was organized. And I think they heard. I think they listened to what people said. And they made some really big changes this year, with the course maps. Got some of the 10K video. You can see this is one of the big changes right here behind me. There's Kylo Ren. And it was the way that they organized the characters this year was completely different. And I'll tell you this, so this is the 5K, or the 10K. And they had at least, I didn't see them all. And you have to remember, I come from my visual standpoint's a little bit different than most people, because I'm kind of limited into about a 10 to 20 foot scope. But I do walk around a lot. And I would say there were probably about 10 character stops just there right before you went into the corrals, and that was a whole big difference too. It's really where they started these races. Now, from the standpoint of somebody who's only done 18 months worth of Disney races here at Walt Disney World, the fact that these all started in the southern part of the TTC, the Ticketing and Transportation Center parking lot, I don't know that that's ever happened before.
I've never heard of
that. No, I think it's a first.
That was one of the things that stood out for me.
So did you run these, Rob?
Last year I ran them. I didn't run them this year.
Okay, so you didn't. So they literally really had. This was a rewrite of how they did the entire course map for a race at Walt Disney World, and they moved and to have two different courses that started from the same point just south of Magic Kingdom, and both ended at the exact same place. And I think it's the Explore lot. That's usually where they have the finish line, except for last year, which was at Wide World of Sports. But it was a really unique experience, because the bus ride from the resort hotel I stayed at the Swan was shorter. I'd say it was and think about that a minute. That's what's interesting. I always stay at the Swan. When they start the race at Epcot, it actually takes longer for me to get to the starting line than when they started it at Ticketing and Transportation Center. And it just has to do with the way that, I guess, the roads run. You have to go all the way around to get to Epcot. This was like a straight shot up into Magic Kingdom. And everything was there. Most people know that when you start a race at Walt Disney World, you go through security. They changed that a little bit this time, which I think they started the changes during Princess. It used to be that if you had on a running belt, you had to go into a separate line for them to screen you. They've kind of consolidated this now and said, no, if you have a gear bag, you go that way. Everyone else go this way. And the security guards basically say, let me look in your bag. They're not kind of splitting because, a lot of people don't carry anything. I've got about 10 pounds of gear on me. So,
well, I wear a sparkle skirt, put it in my pocket.
So I probably should put a sparkle skirt over it. They won't want to go through it. But
I'd like to see that costume the next time. Did you
I
wear?
dare.
So I'm guessing you wore a costume, so you didn't have to go through massive amounts of security. Is that the shirt you have on, the costume you wore?
This is what I wore, yeah. This, and there was a shirt back here that was a long sleeve version for the 10K. And I did have a hat on. They had, I will say that, a little confusing because there are some strict costume rules. And I think, Laura, you might want to put like a link down there to what those costume rules are.
Right.
And they specifically, I remember the email came out a few weeks before. They try to get you ready for these things, so they put a lot of messages in your inbox. And one of the things they really tried to press upon was no layered costumes. And it said specifically Jedi robes, no bulky costumes like Death Stars or TIE fighters, and no guns, so that you can't have a blaster.
Right.
Well, I saw people dressed in Jedi robes. In the video, which I'm not sure if we've gotten there yet, there's a whole group of people dressed as TIE fighters, huge wings on arms. And I swear I saw a couple of blasters out there and long flowing robes. The robes are supposed to go to your waist.
Right, right.
I saw these things trailing on the ground. So a little confused. I think they're being lenient is the best that I can think of.
Did you see anyone? Sorry, go ahead, Megan.
Go ahead. I think, the weather was a huge factor. So not to push ahead to, I think it's related to costumes, but for people who had very elaborate costumes and then thinking about how hot it was, the one thing I saw is I know there were a lot of people who were very sick at the end just because of the heat and had not necessarily planned for the heat. It reminds me of the inaugural Tower of Terror 10-miler, which everyone wants to come back, but that's another conversation for another day. But how did that impact your costume at all?
It was close to 70 degrees, I think, at the start of this year's race. It was warm last year, Rob, if I remember correctly, too. But it wasn't.
But it was also overcast, so I didn't feel like that bad.
This thing, I decided to wear a hat for the 10K, and then the long sleeve shirt, which is compression, fortunately. But I will tell you, we got about a mile in, and I was dripping. I was sweating, and I can't imagine. There was a guy who ran by me and he just looked like he was drenched and he was head to toe Jedi in the white robes. And I thought, okay, that's just crazy, Oh
my goodness.
It does impact your choices. I live here, so I'm a little bit, I kind of get it with the heat and humidity, and you sometimes have to think ahead. And April's hot. So, I didn't go too layered like some others do.
So of the races, so this past weekend, so if you compare it, what made this race, and not necessarily talking about the other races, but what made this either the challenge, the 10K or the half better in your perspective? Or is it the characters? Is it the theming? Obviously, the weather's not necessarily ideal for a run, at least not from those of us that are more north. But what makes it the best in your perspective based upon what you've done in the past?
They really did a terrific job of staging this one. And there's not much you can do on a course. During Princess, of course, you're going to have the princesses out there. And of course, I'm always stopping and talking to people and asking, who is that? 'Cause unless you have little girls, you may not know all of the princesses. Or the princes for that matter. So, there's so much you can do. This was really well staged this year. It was good last year, but they took it up a notch, especially on the half marathon. Kind of boring for the first 4 miles. There really was not much that if you look at where this went, it was swampland and forest. Between the ticketing and transportation center and Animal Kingdom, there really isn't a lot to see, and it's pitch black dark. But they filled in every gap that they could. And I would say it was like every half mile. There was something unique and you can show it if you want. There was this battle that you had to run through for about 1/10 of a mile until you hit the first mile marker. Mile marker 2, I would say, was Darth Vader. But there was this Ewok battle Now I know a lot of people. The video I put up, they were upset if they started in F or G corral, and they were in one of those later waves with the fireworks because they had mini waves now. Mm-hmm. And by the time some of the folks got to the forest area around mile 2, the sun was coming up and there wasn't much to see. But it was the most, I mean, for somebody who can't see, I enjoyed it. And it was the most incredible feeling to have these laser beams shooting at you with that music. And it's so, they used the darkness to their advantage to play with your senses. They had fog and smoke going, green and blue. I call them lasers. They weren't really. They were using some kind of high-powered LED lights, and they were shooting in beams. And of course, when you use the smoke, you can see those beams. And to just see the bodies, I mean, anybody who wants to go watch that little segment that I put up as quickly as I could a week ago, that's typically how I see a race anyway. When I run, I don't have a lot of reference points. I don't have a lot of detail. I just see kind of a lot of out of focus bodies, and everybody got to do that with me. And to see these, to hear the Ewoks screaming at you and Chewbacca screaming at you, and the music was playing, it was a pretty, it was a really unique situation. It was a really unique experience during the race. And
just to clarify, was this during the 10K or the half? Because I did see your preview.
Marathon.
Okay, for the
yeah,
half.
I think we skipped ahead a little bit. The 10K, they was pretty standard. I would tell you that the fireworks, I still wish that they would pump up the volume on the fireworks a little bit with the 10Ks. When they do the little, and you see 3 little sparklers come up. People want to see a little bit more than that. It is Disney World. All the characters are out there. I mean, I just looked through some of the video, and they were there. They had every half mile. They try to space everything so well. Now, my reference point, it's hard for me unless I go back and look at the video. I really don't remember who's where. I do know that the first stop was R2D2, and it was crazy. There had to be 200 or 300 people in that line, and I think I specifically remember going as I was running, because typically what I do is I'll see the line. I can tell that it's a line. I'll kind of run down it, get to the front, and get a little video. And, I could tell that was R2D2. It's a little, trash can sized robot. And so I start running again. There were 2 women next to me, and I said to them, so how long you guys been waiting in line? And they said, about 5 minutes. And I said, well, that's not bad. And I said, well, what corral were you in? And they were in wave number 1. I was in wave number 3. So they should have been, a good 6 to 10 minutes ahead of me, and they waited in that line to get their picture taken. But that's okay. That's what people do, and I think that's the joy of Disney.
That's what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. I pick and choose the battles. I still struggle. I'm not sure how you guys would characterize it. I struggle a little bit with. You had to because of your foot, but I struggle with walking. I struggle with slowing my time down. Like I think, okay, wait, this is still. I'm so new to running. I guess in my head, I think a race should be a race. And then you listen to and I'll put it in air quotes, real runners who poo-poo the whole walk-run thing. And I just say, you know what? I'm kind of getting used to this now, and I get it. The characters are there for a reason. Disney they make this fun for a reason. You've got to stop and get your picture taken. Yeah. So I've started to dial back on the, I have to keep a 12-minute pace or a 10-minute pace. And I've been able to slow down a little bit, get some better video. I know a friend of mine, he was 2 corrals ahead of me. I think he was an A. And he finished almost back with the people from F. His finish time was a 20-minute pace per mile. And that was on purpose because he wanted to get a picture with every single character. So more power to you. That's exactly what that's what they're all about.
So that's going to do it for this episode of Jammin' on the Run. We are going to continue our conversation with Gerald next time. He's going to get more into the Star Wars dark side that I really would like to do in the future. Until then, Thank you so much for being here, Gerald. We truly, truly appreciate it. Thank you to our new subscribers. We are nearing 500, and I'm just so excited about that. So thank you, one and all. Please give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe, and as always, take care and have a joyful day. And out.